Bond. James Bond. Well, he's probably the world's most well-known spy. But then we have a ton of others, like Ethan Hunt, Harry Tasker, Jack Flack, John Mason, Evelyn Salt, Austin Milbarge, Emmett Fitzhume, Jack Ryan, Jason Bourne, and then of course, Maxwell Smart. The new Netflix docuseries Spy Ops looks to give detailed info on how some infamous scenarios played out. It's a longer series, so should you binge? In this documentary series, intelligence operatives from MI6 to the CIA share insider stories of spycraft, Cold War campaigns, and coups carried out by covert agents. The episodes also feature interviews with real officials, officers, and spies. Now, I said this is a longer series, and it's 8 episodes, and they're all around 45 minutes to an hour, and not all of them were intriguing to me. I liked some of the variety that was showcased, but the series tends to be a little bit geopolitically centric, putting the US into most of the situations that are covered. Now, for me personally, I was enjoying the stories that focused more on the international entities, giving insight on how they operate, what types of spycraft they employ, and then gaining knowledge about specific events. And one that I was familiar with, but enjoyed the detail and background, was actually a 2-part episode. The '72 Munich Olympics, where some of the Israeli team were taken hostage by Palestinian terrorists, that was pretty intriguing once the background was established, and then the focus was on Golda Meir's response and the pursuit of those responsible. Now, the series highlights how things went from bad to worse, how much of a cluster F a lot of the whole operation was, to then the wanton brutality and vehemence that Israel pursued the terrorists. Now, while I had heard about Mossad, I didn't fully get what their role and responsibilities were. In the series, it provides effective background and information so that now I can have a better grasp on the organization. Now, another of the stories the series focuses on is the attempted assassination of Pope John Paul II. This is complex and mind-bending, and then it's very touching at the final outcome. Now, I mentioned how I was a fan of more of the stories that didn't involve the US, but this one ends up doing so. And I like that it doesn't shy away from how the US isn't always the benevolent or awesome contributor or even ally as it proclaims to be. Now, what's probably the most engaging outside of the actual campaigns that they cover is that we get to hear directly from individuals involved in some of these spy operations. There are Russian, British, Israeli, even Afghani operatives that tell their perspectives, giving a ton of context and insight into what went down. We also get to hear from reporters who are covering certain events, telling us the same story, but from a completely different perspective. Now, there are a lot of reenactments that are shown. Most of them are okay because they help to illustrate what an interview subject is speaking about. We also get still images and archival video to reinforce the narratives. But when the reenactments are happening, typically they're not cringy or cheap looking, but not every single one works. Sometimes it does take away from the story that we're being told. And I think in these instances, it would have been more effective to just stay on the interviewee and let the audience watch them recount what happened in their own words. We also get to see their emotion in that. Now, for as informative as this is, and thankfully there are a variety of stories, this was still a bit of a chore to get through. I tried binging it, but I just couldn't do it. I watched a couple episodes, then went on to something else, and then came back to the series after a day or so. Now, I like that these can not only be watched in any order that you want, save of course for that 2-parter, but you can also just completely skip an episode if you're not feeling it or the story doesn't look interesting. And then it doesn't have any effect on any of the other episodes. Now, the pacing is consistent, but it's packed with information. So it's not a bad watch by any means, but just not as quick as you might think. And the engagement, it can vary depending on your own interests. There's no sex or nudity, some profanity, and then a lot of violence that's either showcased or described. Now, as a reminder, I don't give couch ratings to documentaries, but if you're into war content or enjoy the idea of spycraft, you might want to give this one a go. It's not something to rush to watch, nor is it massively a bingeable series, but it can be fun in small spurts. So who's your favorite movie or TV spy? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.